All right, it's time to put the rear engine in. Just gonna get it from underneath this table. Oh, wait. Woo! This is usually fairly frightening.
I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be doing some sick stuff with the engine. I'm going to be getting this engine ready to go into here. Okay, here's my transmission. I'm going to throw on this engine, which is the rear engine. I'll tell you a little bit about it. So it is a welded diff in there. I've welded the diff and I've had it in there for 2 years. Haven't had an issue with this training. So I'm not gonna rip it apart and check for metal shavings and stuff because I'll probably get scared and never run it. It's probably really bad in there, but I'm just gonna have to weld another diff and have a replacement ready because honestly, this has not steered me wrong. And this is the longest transmission I've ever had without braking. Zeddy will vouch for me, Zeddy. And basically, I'm just going to do one thing and I'm gonna lube the shaft for the input, which is right here. Guys, you gotta remember, always lube your shafts. You should know this by now, but you gotta lube where the bearing goes on, because when your clutch fork is pushing this bearing in and out, it's actually gonna catch if it's not gonna be freely moving, because it'll just grab this piece and snap it off. Ask me how I know that, because I've done it. I've snapped this right off the housing because this part's attached to the actual training housing and you don't want that to break. So I'm just gonna grease it up, just whatever I've got around, throw that on. All right, the trainee's on. Just got to throw some bolts in, make sure everything's on straight, and we're good to go. Right now, I am trying to get my main pulley to my alternator because the rear engine is what has an alternator. I've always had it set up like that. Regardless, I don't have a belt for it. And the way I need to get a belt for it is you need to measure around here. The reason the stock one that I had on it didn't fit is because my pulley is smaller in diameter, and that being makes a shorter belt needed because there's less surface area all the way around. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna use whatever you got. If you got string, I'm a broke boy, so I don't have string because string is expensive. So I'm just gonna do this. Feed it where it's actually gotta go, and then measure out your length. Make sure your adjuster's about in the middle, and then measure out the length. And now I'm just going to measure this full length, and then that's going to tell me my belt length, and then I'm going to show you how to read the numbers on the belt. To go along this with a tape measure tightly, and it's looking like it's 30 inches. So since now I've figured out that I need a 31-inch length belt, it's just going in this pattern right here. So I've got that figured out. Now I need to figure out how many teeth it's got. And looking into there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actual troughs. So the deepest spot is the spot you count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 5 teeth on my belt. The first number is how many actual ribs there are. So this is a 4 rib. As you can see, it's a 4 rib, 1, 2, 3, 4 across from the width like this. And then I don't pay attention to the middle numbers. I don't really know what that is. But then the last three numbers is 365. So that is 36 inches, 0.5. So this belt is 36.5 long if you measured it all the way around. So I'm gonna need to find a belt that has 5 and then 3, 1. So for 31 and the beginning number 5 because it has 5 ribs, and the end in 3, 1 because I need 31 inches long. I just called Part Source and they've got one. It's a 31.5, so I'm assuming it'll work because my belt tightener majiggy has quite a lot of throw in here, so I'm sure I'll be able to tighten it down enough, get this boy snug. All right, so I got a whole bunch of stuff from the parts store. I got new hoses for my oil cooler. I got belt for my alternator, and I'm gonna see if they fit. Here I'm just replacing the oil cooler lines for the coolant. Just gotta get that out of the way before I forget. Yes, this belt worked. So my theory was correct. Went down to a 31.5, and that was the perfect size. Honestly, it could have been a little bit longer because I barely could get it around the alternator, but it's on. And now I have the full tensioner to go up and down. So I'm very happy. I'm glad I got it working the first time. Fixed the turbo pipes. Now I'm gonna throw the turbo on. I got a brand new turbo. It's $100 on eBay. It's a 5063, and I am going to figure out where I need to drain. Again, I just need to do a hole and weld in a bung, so and then I can drain the oil with a braided line to the oil pan. I'm gonna quick put this onto the bottom of the turbo. This is the drain line for the turbo, so it needs to be routed to the actual oil pan. So I'm just gonna mock it up and figure out where I need to drill a hole into the oil pan. If you want this in more detail, this how to turbo type of deal, I have a full series on that. It's a red MX3, how to turbo an MX3 or any car. Go check that out. So here's my bung. I'm just going to thread it into this actual drain all the way and then place it onto the oil pan at the closest to the top and then just drill a hole, weld it in. I just took the oil pan off, so now I'm gonna clean it, give her a quick weld, and then she goes right back on with sealant. I always weld it from the inside and the outside. Okay, I cleaned, sanded, and painted the oil pan, so I'm waiting for it to dry, the paint, and I'm going to just clean up all this RTV off the bottom of the engine here. Oil pan is all painted up. I'm gonna throw it on the engine as soon as I get some RTV around here. Now it's time for me to put the headers on. I've got new gaskets ready to go on, and basically it's time to put things back together. The biggest thing is the oil pan, because you got to figure out where you got to put the hole, and then you got to weld in the bung. You got to clean your oil pan, seal it up, because the headers actually go around your oil pan. So that's the pain in the butt about V6s. This is a factory exhaust header bolt, and this is one I made. The thing that is bad about this is it has no threads for like 1/4 of an inch on the end. So you're not getting all the threads. I don't know why they did that from factory. But anyways, I just sand a longer bolt, and there's lots of these longer bolts on engines, and I always take them off and remove them and save them. But I just sand them down until they're the same length. It also helps with keeping the threads intact because it's actually using more. It's turbo time. See, I've got the bolts into the turbo. I have one the other way due to a problem with getting it tightened. I can't tighten it until I get it in the car, because once I have it in the car, I'll have my intake running to the cold side of the turbo, and that might have an effect on which way it's tightened down, because it does have some room. So what I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna throw tacks on the bolts so it'll act as a stud. So once I get it in the car, I can just go from the top with a 17, tighten it down how I want. But this one, I can't get from the top with a extension and socket. So what I'm gonna do, so what I did was I reversed this bolt upside down. So I'm gonna tack this one so it's in the turbo welded, and then I'm gonna go from underneath with the ratchet and get that once it's in the car. It'll make my life a lot easier. These glasses that are supposed to protect my eyes change the color significantly to anything. So I unboxed this, which is my oil restrictor. It restricts the oil that goes into the turbo from the top. So it's gonna be placed up here. And the oil feed, it's fed from here, goes to here, fed through there. And it's got a small hole in it, very, very small. And it's meant to restrict oil, like I said. And I am very picky about the sizing of my restrictors, because if you run a big one, it will burn oil like crazy, and these turbos are very picky because they're cheap. These are like $100 turbos. I'm not mad though, like you just have to do things right. And I had this set of glasses on, and I'm looking at it as I unboxed it, and they're always blue. They're always blue, the ones I use. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, it's black, like, shit. I got the wrong part. And I'm like looking on my phone with my glasses on at my history, and then I took them off. I'm like, oh man, I think I ordered the wrong one. And I'm like, oh, it's blue. Now the turbo feed line. There was a couple things that I rewired, and now I've got to make connectors for this guy. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wires. So I'm gonna add 2 4-prongs, and then I'm gonna also add these 2 wires for my fans to the plug, so it'll be easier to remove my wiring harness later. Okay, I got my connectors made. I soldered all my pins in and pushed them all in with rubbers on the end. So these are water resistant / waterproof. Now I'm just gonna check and see if they work. I'm just checking for continuity across the board, and it's looking like they're good so far. because I don't want to put it in and then later on have an issue and have something not working. So I'm just checking it out, making sure everything is fine, and it's looking like it. All right, now I'm gonna just put them into the car. It's all done, it's all covered, everything works, and I made this female on this end and female on this end for this side, so I cannot accidentally plug them into the wrong one because these are the exact same plug, so it's opposite, so I can only plug this one into itself, which would do nothing. Well, actually it would be bad, but it's obviously that it's not gonna happen like that, so I'm just gonna move on. That was not too bad, but now it's all neat and tidy. I'm just sitting here by my heater right now. I am freezing my butt off. Today it is really cold in here. Okay, this is sick. So I'm looking around, been cleaning up, and I don't think there's anything more to go onto the engine and transmission before I put it in. Turbo's already on, guys. Like, let's do this. Come on. All right, I'm gonna bring the car up, run the jacks, and then start to put the engine in. I am going to do the same thing I always do, is I strap my transmission and then I bring it up to this hook here, crank it until it's straight. This is very important, especially because the turbo is so far on the left here. The engine's in. Woo! Bam! Just like that, she's in. She's ready for wiring. She's ready for a fuel system. She's ready to run, hopefully. So right now I just have everything loose in there. These are just threaded in a little bit. Same with the back ones, and the bottom just has the couple threads on. That's all you need to make sure it's in straight, and it is. And let's see if it's gonna sit in there. I'm gonna take the weight off of the hoist and see how she's gonna look. See if she's gonna stay there. Obviously it'll stay, but look at that. Chains are coming off. So exciting. I'm just gonna take a minute to appreciate how good this car is coming together. The cage looks so sick. I need to repaint the purple, but looks so sick. Engine's in the back. This is the fully built one, so I can throw like 500-600 of the wheels in the back if I want to. I'm thinking I'm just gonna keep her at like 350 for this season and then just let her eat from there on. But yeah, I'm stoked. That looks so good. Brand new turbo on there. I got the front housing off. I've just gotta put a new housing on, but cage looks sick. Firewall looks sick. So this is what it looks like with the firewall out. So like there's a removable spot. Looks so nice. And then you can see the light through the holes there with the dimpled eyes. Dimpled eyes everywhere, dimpled eyes there. There. Looking sick. Front engine's in. If you haven't seen all that, go check it out. But I'm gonna continue on with this in the next video. I'm gonna get the wiring in, wastegates on, shifter on, fuel system, intake, the cold side for the turbo, all that stuff. All right, guys, and we'll get it running. See you in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a good one. This is usually fairly frightening.
I'm gonna make something great.